Hello, everyone. This is a full-on workshop. You will see markers, you'll see Post-its, you'll see some random pieces of paper that you're not really sure what they are yet. And there is candy. Thank you to Burn Chocolates. Burn Truffles, they're the best thing on earth. I'm just gonna put it out there. Please have one. There'll be more sprinkled around the tables later. But since this is a workshop, we'd love for everyone to come on up, join in the table. If you're 2 people, let's partner with some others. You're gonna have to chat and communicate with one another. It's real, yeah, we're gonna have that happen. So I'm going to let, do not be afraid. This is gonna be fun. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Michelle Carodi, and I'm here. Wow. I hate being on stage, so here we are. I'm at the Lakey Institute for Rural Partnerships, and we've been able to put this on for you all. We've really been cognizant and mindful of wanting to have you all connect as much as possible, everyone from community members to legislators to faculty members and deans. I see some deans in room, thank you. And that's why we really have made these workshops. We want you all to connect. We went to a really neat conference, and this was part of it, where we got to really get to know our groups at the table, and I think that's really important, especially when we're here talking about how to show up for our community as a university. So please get together. I have the pleasure of having Jen Berger here with us, who is a UVM faculty member. Yay, Jen. Whoop, whoop. And she's gonna be your workshop host. So I'm gonna pass the mic and we're gonna get started.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to see everybody here. My name is Jen Berger. I'm a socially engaged interdisciplinary artist and educator based in Vermont. I've been a teaching artist throughout Vermont for 20 years, and I'm currently faculty here at UVM. I teach in the School of the Arts in studio art. I also run a small business called At the Root, where I run community events, workshops, and projects, and also do coaching and consulting of arts integration and supporting artists in the business of being an artist. My undergraduate degree is in community engaged art and social justice, and my MFA is in interdisciplinary art with a focus on social engagement. Because most of my work is based in history and social justice, it is also based in research. I'm so excited to be here with you to do this workshop on research as a public good and community-engaged art research. I'm going to start with an overview of community-engaged art research and what it can do, and then we're going to have an opportunity to engage in some work together. All right, I've got 2 different slideshows I'm working on here. Hang on a sec. All right. Perfect. Okay. So, community-engaged art researchers are researchers and artists who collaborate with community members to create meaningful and often transformative artwork based on research, often focusing on social issues or community needs. This type of research can be used to inform policy, empower communities, and address social challenges. It's a process where both researchers and community members are equal partners, contributing their knowledge and experience to the research process. Great. These are just a few different ways that community-engaged research shows up. So community-engaged research is a process that incorporates input from people who the research outcomes will impact and involves such people or groups as equal partners throughout the research process. This involvement may include co-designing research questions to solve problems, making decisions, influencing policies, and creating programs and interventions that affect their own lives. Art as a tool. Art can be used as a tool for many purposes, such as social change, communication, education, healing, and expression. As a tool for expression, art helps people to transfer their thoughts, feelings, and ideas in a creative and personal way. Through different media, such as painting, sculpture, photography, and performance, artists can communicate their unique perspectives and experiences to others. For example, in education, art can be used to facilitate learning and creativity. It can be a way to engage students in a subject or to help them explore and express their own ideas and experiences. Art education can also provide important skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, and collaboration. Art also acts as a tool for inclusiveness, providing other ways to learn and share information in addition to words that are not necessarily text-based. Collaborative practice. Community-engaged art research is often a collaborative practice involving multiple stakeholders, including artists, researchers, community members, and other experts. And community empowerment. The modern-day arts community development movement is founded on the belief that arts can be a powerful agent of personal, institutional, and community change. Since its beginning in the 1970s, the movement has grown from a very small and contained universe of intent and definition to become a widespread approach to both art making and community building. Okay, great. So these are just a few examples of how the practical application of community-based arts research or community-engaged art research. So using digital storytelling to explore housing insecurity in rural communities. This example here is the anti-eviction mapping project. It's a data visualization, critical cartography, and multimedia storytelling collective that documents dispossession and resistance on gentrifying landscapes. They're primarily based in the San Francisco Bay Area, LA, and New York City. Okay, there we go. Creating murals or public art installations to address community needs or tell community stories. In Montgomery, Alabama, a black and white United States flag painted on the side of a downtown building is the background for a 10 by 50-foot mural. Red bleeds from the bottom of the flag. A black child in the foreground, entwined in a police barricade tape, wears a mask that reads, "Are you listening?" The mural features names of victims of police violence in Montgomery, and a police officer appears in the left corner, his back to the viewer. I wanted to share a little bit. This is a project that I worked on in 2015. And the city of Burlington was in the process of putting together finalizing the South End Plan BTV project, which was to redo the south end of Burlington. And BCA at the time had micro grants that they offered to artists to go into the community to do research. And my collaborator, Michelle, and I worked with two different groups of people who lived in low-income housing. And they had economic and mobility barriers, and also barriers to be able to get information to even know the process was happening, let alone to be able to participate. So we spent multiple months actually with them, talking with them, doing focus groups, doing interviews, having them check back our work. And then we created this mural, which they actually helped us paint. And what this mural is a collaboration or conglomeration of all of the ideas that they had about what would work for them, what would be great, what they wanted to see in their own neighborhood. And then we brought this mural to the summit. That was a weekend in which there was other art pieces, but there was people from all different stakeholders in that room who were making decisions, final decisions about South End Plan BTV. Okay. All right. Developing community-based art programs to promote health and well-being. So you can see here that the role of arts and culture in fostering social cohesion and community well-being is very important. We're really lucky here in Vermont. The Vermont Community Foundation has a grant to support arts and social cohesion that's been going on for a few years, and they're funding a lot of really amazing projects. And then this one here, sorry, get there. Engaging in participatory research projects that address social justice issues. This is an example of a comic book that was created after talking and interviewing people who experienced gender-based violence. And this comic book both tells their stories as a way of affirming and connecting, but also giving tools for people who are in different parts of needing that work. Okay, and so today, we will explore how art can be used not just as an expression, but as a tool for building public inquiry, relationship building, and equitable imagining. Today's workshop is not meant to provide you with answers, but with an experience that you can integrate into your work and hopefully to continue to provoke questions. So bear with me. I'm going to walk through the steps that we're going to do, and then we're going to do it. But I want to just start by saying that exercise that you're about to do in real life would be anywhere from 6 to 12 months long, and you're gonna do this in less than an hour. And you're gonna be great, I know it. Okay, so we're gonna participate in creating a modified charrette. A charrette is a meeting in which all stakeholders in a project attempt to resolve conflicts and map solutions. So you'll see on your tables, there should be a piece of paper that says developers, it should say city councilors, family heirs, nonprofits, community residents, or university research team. That will identify your table as one of these stakeholders that's listed here. I'm gonna walk you through it, and then you're gonna get to do the steps. Okay, the next thing you're gonna do, we're gonna talk about this hypothetical case study that we're working on. You're then gonna come up with a character, and I'll explain how you're gonna do that. And then quickly, you're going to introduce everybody at the table through your character. In that, you're gonna and again, you're not gonna have a lot of time for conversation, which we would wanna do in real life, and also thinking about when we don't have good process, what kind of product we might come up with. But we're gonna just do the practice today. But you're gonna have a conversation at your table and kind of think about what, based on who you are, what your table thinks is best for this building that we're gonna talk about. You're then gonna have a chance to interview somebody else in the room who is not in your stakeholder group. And what I'm gonna encourage you to do, it may not be 100% possible, is that if everybody at your table can talk to somebody from a different stakeholder group, because this is your research sample, and you wanna try to diversify that research sample as much as possible. Then you're gonna come back to your group and then share your research, synthesize that, and then using the creative props on your table, you're gonna have a chance to create a little mural that you're going to then share to everybody what your table thinks is best for this building that we're working on. In a perfect world, we would have all of the archetypes coming together and building together. In a really perfect world, we would have all day and everybody in this room would be coming together to do that. But in the meantime, we're gonna be able to do this based on your table, and then we'll have a gallery walk to look at everything. So, the case study that we're talking about right now this is fictional, but I think this is also something that we can all connect to, right? There's a historical building in a small town in Vermont. It was built in 1898, so it's got some historical significance. It has suffered moderate flood damage from the 2024 flood. It's been unused since 2018. The building owner died and it just sat empty. And there's multiple stakeholders that have competing interests. So again, you have on your table, it tells you what your stakeholder group is. If you're alone at a table, I'm gonna encourage you to get together with other people. So I see a few singles, so just pick a table and whatever is on that table, go with that. And then you'll also see there should be a handout, 1 or 2 pieces of paper on each of your tables. And on the front side of that, it's gonna have a worksheet. There's 2 different worksheets, but the first one will have you, and it's just a list there, you're gonna write this separately on a different piece of paper. And there's color paper, there's color markers, have some fun with this. But you're gonna create a character, and the things you wanna include are identity markers such as gender, age, race, education, citizenship status, household income, how many income earners are there in your household, length of time in the community, and your relationship to the building. These should not be who you actually are, but you're gonna come up with something, and this is gonna help you think through how to think about outside of your own perspective, right? And so you're gonna come up with that. And I'll set a timer to have you do that. So why don't we actually start with that? So why don't you all get together in groups if you're not, and does everybody have a piece of paper on your table that has the worksheet on there? So you're gonna have about a minute, maybe 2, just for individual work right now to come up with your own character. Does everybody have the paper? And let me see if I have. If not, I think you can look up here to see most of that, but you've got like 1 minute. Okay, hopefully now you have identified yourself. And once you have that and you know who you are, at your table, we're going to spend about 3 minutes, so it's going to be kind of quick, spend about 3 minutes going around and just introducing yourself to everybody else at your table. And then from that, you're going to say, okay, what do we think, based on who we are, what do we think the best thing for this building is going to be? Yes. Yes. Yeah, so then you're going to basically try to figure out for your stakeholder group what you think is best. Do you have a question? What's your question? You are each individual characters, and in your group, based on what you've come up with, you're going to share that so you have a better understanding of what your group thinks is best, what the needs are based on who you've decided you are. Okay, that was 3 minutes. How are we feeling? How much? Need more time? 2 more minutes? Okay. We're going to do it. Everything's quick. Yeah, but 2 more minutes. You got it. Okay. So at this point, you should know who you are, and you should know who else is at your table, and you should have some kind of idea of what you think your group wants. It's okay if it's not perfect, but you should have at least that part. So now we're going to move on to the next section. And don't worry, you're going to have a chance to go back to this conversation. But now you're going to do your research, now that you have a sense of who you are. So what you're going to do is everybody's going to take, we're going to take about, like, say, 6 or so minutes. You're going to split the time in half. If we need more, we can do that. And you're going to leave your table and find somebody else near you who is in a different stakeholder group. What you're going to do is introduce yourself as the stakeholder. The other person's then going to introduce themselves. And I'm going to encourage you to take notes because this is your research and you want to be able to represent it accurately. You're going to have a few minutes to ask them, what do you think is important? What are you advocating for? What feels important? What do you want us to consider? You can ask each other questions and kind of get to a better sense of what each other's thinking. So you'll have a few minutes to introduce yourself, swap stories, and then when you come back to your group, you're going to then share the research that you all did from other parts of the stakeholder group, okay? So let's see, I'm gonna set a timer for 6 minutes, but I'll check in to think about finding somebody. You've got about 3 minutes each to do an introduction and ask questions, and then you're gonna come back to your table. Okay. So that's been a few minutes. Do you feel like you have the information you need to go back to your stakeholder group? Okay, I think everybody's heading back, so I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, go ahead and recollect to your original group. So once you've reconnected with your group, you're going to do two things now, two different things. The first thing you're going to do is share back the research that you all just did. So you just did a very, very brief single research sample. In the real world, right, we'd be doing a lot more in-depth research. Again, we're just going through the steps. So you're going to share back your research and then say, based on what you have heard and based on who you are, what do you think the best thing is for this building? So that's the first step. The second step, this is where you get really creative, is you're going to get to utilize the materials on your table and you're going to create a mural. And so I'll explain to you how you're going to do that. So you're going to basically thinking about image, shape, color, words, things like that. How do you want to depict what you're going to communicate from the research that you've done? On the back of your worksheet, I'm just going to briefly explain. These are the basic elements and principles of art. This is what helps us talk about art, art critique, art analysis, making art. You are in no way expected to know these, memorize these, or use them. You can if you want, but it does help you to understand the different things that you need to consider when you're using visual communication to translate a story. So these are here to help you, but you don't have to use them, but they are there to help you. Let me go back here, and I'll put that back up. There we go. Okay. So you're going to, there's a big piece of paper on your table. There's also these big pieces of paper over here if you need one, and I've got a few Post-it notes. I just drew this. It's so simple, but this is kind of what you want to start with, is you're going to do a really simple, basic outline of a building, and then you're going to fill it in. So what colors are you using? What shapes? How are you conveying the information that you're synthesizing from your research using visual communication? So that's your task with what you have. And let's see, we're doing great on time. So let's say 15 minutes, because I want to have a chance for you to see everybody else's work. But let's try that for 15 minutes, and I'll check in and see if you need more time. Okay? All right. Thanks. You still have time, but I just wanted to remind you to think outside of your building or your box, thinking about drawing, but you've got paper, you can cut it into shapes, you can layer things. I don't know if you have tape or glue or some kind of adhesive, but to really think about having some fun. It doesn't have to be literal, maybe it's abstract, maybe you're sharing a feeling of something you're trying to get across versus something actual literal. So really think about there's multiple ways that you can communicate what your group is trying to say. You've got about 2.5 minutes from where you are. If you are done, and it's okay if you're not, but if you are done, you can go ahead and put your mural on the wall over here where you'll see the blue painter's tape. We can also provide you with painter's tape to place it up there. So when you're done, go ahead and put it on the wall. I'll check back in. Does anybody need more than an extra minute or two? Okay, so let's say 2 minutes because I want to have time to look at them and have a conversation. Okay. We have just over 10 minutes to finish up our workshop, so I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and hang up your murals and also start walking around and looking at the work that everybody's made. I'd love to leave a couple minutes at the end just to ask some questions and get some reflections before we head out. But go ahead and start putting them up and taking a look at other people's, asking them questions, and getting into as much conversation as we have time for. So as you're looking, see what things you might see that are similar, what things are different. Also, we've got a building being moved throughout the entire room right here, so maybe clear the highway. But see what things are similar and different. Are there themes that are coming up regardless of who the stakeholder is? Do you see things that are in conflict with each other, and maybe there's another one that maybe resolves that conflict? What's coming up in this visual representation? So keep doing what you're doing. I'm just being aware of time. And so those of you who need to go right away, we still have a couple minutes. But I also just wanted to hear if anybody just wants to shout out kind of a reflection or something that they learned from this, or some kind of cohesion or theme, or anything that they experienced during this act. And again, this was a very, very, very quick 45 minutes that could have been a year-long project to hopefully give you a taste of just like, what are the different steps that you can go through? What are things you should be thinking about? Who's not part of your group? Who's not at the table to make the conversations? How do you encourage them? How does art and creativity play a role? This is the storytelling, but you can use art and creativity to do your research. So as we're just kind of finalizing, you're looking, and I'm not trying to rush anybody, but I just would love to hear, maybe just shout out. Feel free to just shout out whatever you're thinking about from this exercise. Maybe we get three shout outs before we're done. And I might call on people I know if y'all don't hear from people. Just kind of reflections. Are there themes here? What is something that maybe you learned or that you're going to take away from today's exercise? Just kind of something to close out from you about your experience. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm going to use the mic.
Hi, I just wanted to say that it seemed like everyone has been in Vermont a little bit and realized that a community center is a really good use of this building. The similarity, there are more similarities than differences.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. So one thing I had a question about is that looking at these, I think a lot of us proposed mixed-use spaces that contemplate different levels of affordability and income and meeting multiple needs. It seems like we see a lot of this expressed in different ways around Vermont. And I see empty storefronts, and we know that the need for housing is really high. The affordability gap is considerable. So I'm just wondering what we can learn about, like, what is working and what do we need to do more of, better, and change to bridge what we're actually meaning to bridge.
Thank you. Okay, great.
You go ahead.
Our group was a group of historic preservationists, and we saw some others here too, but we decided, you know, there would be an opportunity to do old and new. So after we met with our developer friends, we retained the historic nature of the main part of the building, and then we added a cafe with all kinds of amenities that would draw the community in, like a pizza oven, wine tasting nights periodically. But it was a lot of fun, and our Heather, one of our table participants, made the excellent point that if some of Vermont's smaller community schools close, this will be a real life problem in a lot of towns for those buildings. And so this would be a great way to get a town together to think about how to use a space such as a school.
I think we see like the real tension between like capital, community, and climate going on here of like, you know, I was in a community resident group. I spoke to some family heirs. There was resistance to doing anything that wasn't profitable for them. And I think I look at a lot of ideas here, and it's like, how do we, you know, do what are the things that would actually serve the community separate from any profit motive, and how do you reconcile those things? And at the same time, I see all of the groups wrestling with the idea of this building already had flood damage. Can it actually be preserved and have current use in the space where it's currently located? So I think I see all of us wrestling with that idea regardless of what we see as the outcome we want.
Amazing. Great. Thank you. And yeah, these are all real life considerations. And again, in a perfect world, we would actually be solving this together instead of in these like smaller groups. And we'd be having these larger conversations, and we would be asking questions about the visuals that have been created. So hopefully this is just an opportunity to see the different ways, again, thinking about research, thinking about using art, and being in community together. And I don't want to keep you any more for lunch, so thank you so much for your time.